You're not crazy. You're being made to feel that way. Someone in your life is systematically dismantling your reality, making you question your own memories, your own perceptions, your own sanity. And the worst part, you don't even know it's happening. This is the invisible war being waged against your mind. Gaslighting is one of the most insidious forms of psychological manipulation ever identified. It doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't raise its voice. It simply rewrites your truth until you no longer trust yourself. Reality is being stolen. Today, we're going to expose exactly how this works, why it's so devastatingly effective, and most importantly, how you can recognize it before it destroys your sense of self. As the philosopher George Orwell warned us, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Welcome to the anatomy of psychological warfare. The origin story. The term gaslighting comes from a 1938 play called Gaslight, where a husband systematically manipulates his wife into believing she's going insane. He dims the gas lights in their home, then denies that anything has changed when she notices. He hides objects and insists she move them. He isolates her from friends and family. Slowly, methodically, he erases her grip on reality. The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. What makes this play so chilling is that it wasn't fiction for millions of people watching it. They recognized their own lives on that stage. Psychologists later adopted the term to describe a specific pattern of emotional abuse, where one person systematically undermines another's perception of reality. This is not about arguments or disagreements. This is about deliberate psychological control. The gaslighter doesn't want to win an argument. They want to win your mind. They want you to stop trusting yourself entirely and depend completely on their version of events. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The first move. Gaslighting never starts with obvious lies. It starts with tiny contradictions. Things so small you dismiss them. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. That's not what happened. Small lies, big damage. These micro-denials are strategic. The gaslighter is testing your boundaries, seeing how much reality they can bend before you push back. And when you don't push back, because why would you fight over something so trivial, they know they can go further. Psychologist Robin Stern, author of The Gaslight Effect, calls this the disbelief stage. You notice inconsistencies, but you explain them away. Maybe you did remember wrong. Maybe you are being too sensitive. Your own mind becomes the enemy. This is the trap. The gaslighter is training you to doubt yourself before they've even begun their real work. They're installing a backdoor into your consciousness, a tiny seed of uncertainty that they will water until it grows into complete psychological dependence. And once that seed takes root, the real manipulation begins. Reality erosion. Once the gaslighter establishes that your memory and perception can be questioned, they escalate. Now the lies get bigger. Events that definitely happened are denied entirely. Conversations that took place never occurred. Your emotional reactions are pathologized. You're being paranoid. You're too emotional. Everyone thinks you're overreacting. They weaponize your own emotions against you. This is where many victims first start to break. Because the gaslighter isn't just lying anymore. They are recruiting reality itself as their witness. They'll point to your confusion as proof of your instability. Your frustration becomes evidence of your irrationality. In a room where people unanimously maintain a conspiracy of silence, one word of truth sounds like a pistol shot. The gaslighter creates an environment where speaking truth feels like madness. You start to hide your real thoughts. You begin performing stability instead of feeling it. And slowly, terrifyingly, you lose access to your own authentic responses. Erosion. Your sense of self is being worn away, grain by grain. But it gets darker still. The isolation trap. A gaslighter cannot operate effectively if you have external validation. If you can check your reality with trusted friends, family, or colleagues, their spell breaks. So they isolate you. Not obviously, not by locking you in a room, but by slowly poisoning your other relationships. Your friends don't understand. Your mother never liked me. Your friends are a bad influence. No one else sees what I see in you. They position themselves as your only reliable source of truth while simultaneously cutting off every other perspective. Studies on cult psychology show identical patterns. The first step of indoctrination is always isolation, creating an information vacuum that only the manipulator can fill. You become an island, and they control the only bridge. What's particularly cruel is that they often frame this isolation as protection. They're saving you from people who don't understand you, don't appreciate you, don't love you like they do. By the time you realize what's happened, you have no one left to turn to. No one to tell you that yes, the gaslights are dimming. And that's exactly when they make their next move. The dependency bond. Here's the paradox that makes gaslighting so effective. The more confused and destabilized you become, the more you cling to the very person causing your confusion. This is trauma bonding. Your nervous system, desperate for stability, attaches to the only consistent presence in your chaos, which is the gaslighter themselves. They become both the poison and the antidote. When they're kind, you feel overwhelming relief. When they validate you, even briefly, you feel like you've found solid ground. This intermittent reinforcement, unpredictable cycles of cruelty and kindness, creates the strongest psychological bonds known to science. The human heart has a tendency to name everything it loves. You start to love the moments of peace more than you ever loved consistent kindness. You become addicted to their approval because it's the only thing that quiets the storm they created inside you. You're grateful to your torturer for pausing the torture. This dependency isn't weakness. It's a neurobiological response to sustained psychological stress. But understanding this is the first step to breaking free. And speaking of breaking free, the identity theft. The ultimate goal of gaslighting isn't just to control your behavior. It's to steal your identity. Over time, you stop knowing who you are outside of the gaslighter's narrative. Your preferences, your beliefs, your sense of humor, your boundaries, all of these get overwritten. Who are you anymore? You start speaking their words. You adopt their opinions. You see yourself through their eyes, which means you see yourself as fundamentally flawed, unstable, and lucky to have them. Your authentic self gets buried under layers of their projection. Psychologist Judith Herman, who studied trauma extensively, noted that prolonged psychological abuse creates a kind of doubling. The victim develops a false self to survive, a performance of the person the abuser wants them to be, while their true self goes into hiding. Erasure. Some victims describe emerging from gaslighting relationships not knowing what music they like, what foods they enjoy, what makes them laugh. The gaslighter didn't just hurt them, they hollowed them out. But here's what they don't want you to know: their hidden motive. Why do people gaslight? The uncomfortable truth is that it serves a purpose for them. Gaslighters often have deep insecurities and fragile self-images that cannot tolerate challenge. By destabilizing you, they feel stable. By making you small, they feel big. The need to be right is the sign of a vulgar mind. Many gaslighters exhibit traits associated with narcissistic personality disorder. They require constant validation and cannot accept fault. Rather than confronting their own flaws, they project them onto you. If they feel inadequate, they make you feel more inadequate. If they feel out of control, they control you completely. Your pain is their power. But here's the crucial insight. Not all gaslighters are calculated villains. Some genuinely believe their version of events. They've gaslit themselves into a reality where they are the hero, and maintaining that delusion requires constant reality management, both of their own mind and yours. Understanding this doesn't excuse them, but it does explain them. An explanation is the first step toward protection. So how do you know if it's happening to you? The warning signs. Your body knows before your mind does. Pay attention to these signals. Do you constantly second-guess yourself? Do you feel confused and unclear in conversations? Do you make excuses for the other person's behavior? Do you feel like you're never good enough? Do you withhold information from friends and family to avoid explaining your relationship? These are not signs of your weakness. These are symptoms of psychological manipulation. Trust the version of yourself that existed before this relationship. Another critical sign. Do you feel relief when this person isn't around? If you feel more like yourself when they're absent, something is wrong. The gaslighter creates a pressure that you've normalized, and you only notice it when it lifts. Your peace shouldn't depend on someone's absence. Also watch for the phrase that should set off alarm bells. You're too sensitive. This is the gaslighter's favorite tool because it dismisses your reality while making you responsible for your own dismissal. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Now that you see the pattern, let's talk about how to break it. Reclaiming reality. Breaking free from gaslighting requires rebuilding trust with yourself, one small truth at a time. Start documenting. Keep a journal of events, conversations, and your feelings. When the gaslighter denies something happened, you have a record. This isn't paranoia. This is self-preservation. Write your own truth. Reconnect with people outside the relationship. Even if it feels awkward, even if you've been distant, reach out. Other perspectives are oxygen for a suffocating mind. Set small boundaries and notice the response. A healthy person respects boundaries. A gaslighter treats them as attacks. Their reaction will tell you everything. Your perception is valid, and it always has been. Most importantly, seek professional support. Therapists trained in emotional abuse can help you untangle the web of manipulation and reconstruct your sense of self. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Recovery isn't linear. There will be days when you doubt yourself again, when the gaslighter's voice echoes in your mind. But each time you choose your own truth over their narrative, you get stronger. And finally, there's something you need to understand about who you really are. Your unbroken core. Here's what the gaslighter never wants you to discover. They couldn't actually reach your core. Beneath all the confusion, the self-doubt, the fractured identity, there is a part of you that survived. That part that kept quietly protesting something is wrong here, even when you couldn't articulate what. That was your authentic self, refusing to die. Unbreakable. The fact that you're listening to this, seeking understanding, questioning what happened to you, that proves it. You're still in there. Jung wrote about the self as the organizing center of the psyche, something that persists beneath all the roles we play and all the damage we endure. The gaslighter attacked your ego, your conscious sense of identity. But your deeper self remained, waiting. The light they tried to dim was never theirs to control. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. You are not broken. You are not crazy. You never were. You were targeted precisely because someone saw a light in you that threatened their darkness. Your truth was always valid. And now that you understand how the game works, you can never be played the same way again. Gaslighting is psychological warfare disguised as love, concern, or even help. It targets the very foundation of your being, your ability to perceive reality accurately. But knowledge is the antidote to manipulation. Now that you see the pattern, you can never unsee it. You've learned how it starts with tiny contradictions, how it escalates through isolation and reality erosion, how it creates trauma bonds that chain you to your abuser, and most importantly, how it can be recognized, resisted, and healed. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. If anything in this video resonated with your experience, trust that resonance. Your intuition was right all along. It was always right. The gaslighter's greatest lie was making you distrust the one thing that could save you, yourself. Trust your own mind. Welcome to the Psyche Project. If this opened your eyes to something you needed to see, share it with someone who might need it too. Subscribe for more explorations of the human psyche.